So tonight the referendum has been called off. The big question is, what happens now? That's a question that we'll be exploring tonight on PMSs. How did we get here? Well, if you missed it, the president just last night in his address to the nation ordered an abortion of both the December 17 referendum and that amendment in Parliament that would have allowed you to vote for your MMDCEs. That's his instruction he gave to his ministers, particularly the local government minister. But today, as we've seen, the Attorney General has been to Parliament to formally withdraw both legislations, making it conclusive, really. Now, the Electoral Commission, however, from what we are learning, they are yet to be formally informed of the process to withdraw both legislations in Parliament. The Majority Leader has explained that the communication will go to the Electoral Commission soon, and then they'll be formally notified, and then the withdrawal will happen. The local government minister says both constitutional amendments that were before Parliament recently are no longer her priority. She's focusing on other things. The key question is whether or not it is going to come back as a priority item for the government. That is the million-dollar question going into 2020 election. There have been many reactions to this. The key one to note is that of the National Democratic Congress, the main opposition party. In the statement they issued, they claimed victory following the cancellation of the referendum. Now, they claim the president only cancelled the referendum because he was afraid of defeat. Because the president was on the side of yes, the NDC was on the side of no. The NDC believes that the president knew that if he had gone to the polls on December 17, his side would have lost the vote, and they believe that's the only reason he had called the referendum off. Now, they allege financial loss and have now demanded full disclosure as to how much has been spent so far on the process going forward. There's a reaction, though, from the sector minister, who says there's been no financial loss because, in her estimation, this was part of the district level election and not much has been expended there. The Electoral Commission has spoken to us today and also said that they don't believe that they've also lost much because they were yet to print these ballot papers directly for the referendum, and so they're simply going to stop the process and go ahead with the district level elections. That's where we stand on some of these reactions. Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament has today also been challenging the president's authority to cancel the referendum. They say that is unconstitutional, that is an injustice to the Ghanaians and the majority who really holds the sovereignty of this country in their hands. They are raising the constitutionality of the decision that the president, the president has taken, and they are challenging a few of the things that they believe are illegal. Now, if you contrast that with the party's position, the party says, well, this is what we wanted. It is a victory for us. But the minority in Parliament is also saying that they say this decision is bad for the people and the president, again, had acted illegally. Reactions, again, as far as the political reactions are concerned, the New Patriotic Party, the incumbent party, they've issued a statement tonight, and their position is that, well, this is a good one for the president, and that the president was left with no choice because of the NDC's hypocrisy, they allege. Now, key question, what next? Stay with us here on PMSs. When we return, the NCCE, they've been spending a lot of money in trying to campaign and get you informed ahead of the referendum and the district level election. So what happens now for them? We'll also hear from Parliament as well. This is where it all emanated from. What is the way forward, if at all? This is PMS. Stay with us. When we return, we'll get into those details. You're live on PM Express tonight. My guest in the studio is the chairperson of the NCCE, Madam Josephine Nkrumah. Madam, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Also joining me is Inusah Fuseini. He is the ranking member and on the Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament. all along, that committee has been first scrutinizing the legislation that allows us to first hold the referendum, and then second, also trying to amend what Parliament can when it comes to the election of MMDC. So he's the right man to talk to. Some say they all failed as the politicians. Whether he accepts that is a different question that we'll ask him tonight. So thanks for joining us on the show. Madam Nkrumah, what is your reaction to where we are today? You have put in a lot of energy, a lot of resources, campaigning, running around the country, getting all of us informed about this, only for it to just not happen. You must be disappointed.
Well, I must say, you look at all the work you've put into it, and then you're thinking, wow, so all of this, and it's been called off. I think it was a real opportunity for us as Ghanaians in terms of local governance, in terms of reforms, and in terms of where collectively as a people we wanted local governance to go.
Yeah.
And it's a golden opportunity that we've all missed.
Yeah.
As to whether we'll get it back, perhaps a story for another day. But for NCC, on the premise that the referendum itself was riding on the back of district level elections, we continue to carry on with our work. But this time around, it's all about education and awareness raising on district level elections. As I said earlier this morning, perhaps there's been some good that has come out of this. People are beginning to understand the importance of local government or local governance. People are beginning to appreciate that that is where real change can be made. And so, to that extent, I'm hoping we can sustain that conversation and continue to garner that interest of Ghanaians in local governance. So, to that extent, I'm happy. But on the flip side, it could be so, disappointing for some that they may just say, I won't even bother to go and vote. So, it's a dicey one. But NCC remains relentless in pursuing our mandate and ensuring that as many as we can have turn up on December 17th, will turn up for district level elections and vote for their assembly members and their unit committee members.
I mean, I have been following your campaign, brochures, video adverts that we've been playing here, and it's not for free, by the way.
I know.
On radio as well. And of course, it's a combined campaign, both district level, but also the referendum.
Yes.
How are you going to handle this? You've already pumped resources into designing these matters and paid for it.
Yes.
So what's going to happen?
Well, for NCC, we were kindly sponsored by the Ministry for Local Government and Rural Development. So we didn't have direct funding from Government of Ghana to carry out our district level elections and referendum on the awareness raising and the education. But like you said, so we have pumped the money in to adverts, jingles, and
your men have been on the ground.
Yes.
Across the country. You sleep in hotels, meeting people, all the
a lot of that. But it's two-pronged. So on one side, we're doing the referendum, and on the other side, we're also doing the district level elections. So what it is for us is to curtail education on the referendum and continue to speak about district level elections, and so that is what.
But for the adverts that are already playing,
there are adverts and things playing. We consider maybe would have to withdraw some of the adverts. We're considering, can we edit it? But we certainly don't have the resources to go back on the, to do audio visuals around this. So that is it. That is what it is.
How much money have you spent so far?
We're given 1 million CDs, and as we speak, I think we've dissipated all of those resources, and that is not cheap money for NCC.
Not at all.
Yes, and it's involved a lot of work on the ground for our people. Our staff have been going, and because there was a lot of misinformation around the referendum, there was a lot of targeted education on that score to get Ghanaians to understand whatever it is that they needed to understand that the referendum was about. whether or not we wanted political parties to participate in district level elections, and also, of course, continue to encourage Ghanaians to turn up and vote for their local governance and duty bearers. So,
Mr. Fuseini, a million. NCC is a typical organization that always says we don't have resources. They finally get resources to do some good work, and they say because of members of parliament who have been playing politics with this, we are wasting all this, and the people's ultimate supreme interests haven't been served at all. Well, you accept that criticism?
No, it's unfortunate.
Not only of yourself, but of your entire colleagues in parliament on both sides.
Well, it's unfortunate that we've gotten to where we are in our desire to deepen democracy at the local level and make our elected representatives accountable. But how did we get to where we are today?
Because the NDC backed out.
No, because when Article 243 was laid in Parliament, it was referred to the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs.
The committee of which you're ranking member.
The ranking member. And we met the Attorney General and the Minister for Local Government and her deputies. And we pointed out to them that the amendment so laid in Parliament did not deal with the issue. So that's where the issue of having to comprehensively reform local governance. Now, one glaring thing that we all up to date are unable to understand is that Article 2481 sought to divest the President of the power to appoint the chief executives. In the same article, a clause of that article, Article 2433, retained the power of the President to remove. The same article. It's not in a different section of the Constitution. The same article. So how can you explain that? If you watch my contribution on the floor of Parliament, I asked the Minister for Justice why the government was cherry picking. Why? That did not communicate the intentions of government well at all. That was the basis of the suspicion.
Oh, so you suspected that government?
Now, and then some few days later, the 55 came to Parliament and was referred to the ECJ to start the processes. Now, 55(3) presently prohibits political parties from engaging in partisan politics, and all of us know that. The corollary of 55(3) is 2482, which prohibits individuals from campaigning on the platforms of political parties. So if we have gone to a referendum to amend 55(3), why didn't you add 2482 to 2421, 2431 and 2433?
So today, your majority leader colleague brought this up, and in fact mentioned your name and said, you raised this legitimately and in good faith. He showed you very exclusively work that the local government minister and the Attorney General had already begun to fix some of the challenges that you had identified.
Exactly.
In good faith.
I told them we had a meeting with IDEC. And I told them why we were where we were was because of deficit of trust. In fact,
but there wasn't a trust building process to show you.
The meeting before IDEC, we had met the speaker and had written what we wanted down for the speaker and the Attorney General. And the Attorney General had committed herself to ensuring that those things were done. And that ended the matter. Nothing was done. Absolutely nothing. So when we met the second time, I then asked, so how can we build confidence and bridges amongst ourselves? We said in principle, we support the election of DCEs. And DCEs here include MCEs, and MCEs, the metropolitan and the municipal. But we were not getting the way clear. You see, Amendment 2431 alone provided two options to the president. One option was for the president to submit a list of preferred candidates to the districts, for the districts to elect one from amongst the preferred lists. And you can see that practice elsewhere. That is meant to ensure cohesion and inclusiveness in government, to balance out competing demands at the district level. So you say, okay, so we have an MP who is from the majority ethnic group in the district. So the Constitution enjoins us in the directive principles of state policy to share resources equitably and fairly. So we are not going to allow the majority to also take the district chief executive position. So we are going to present a list of minority ethnic groups for you to choose one. It's a balancing act, and that was possible. Or in my area, where we are conservative people, it will be difficult for a woman to emerge as a district chief executive. The president will say, okay, yes, so all the area, that area, all the MPs are men. And so I'm going to submit to you a list of women to choose one from. That's one way. The second way was for the president to say, well, I've amended Article 2431. So you have to elect your district chief executive by universal adult suffrage. In this instance, anybody who thinks he's qualified to contest should go pick the forms and run on his own merit.
And that can be done without a political party,
no, can be done without that.
etc.
But we wanted that communication. What was it? Because if you look at the Constitutional Review Committee's recommendations, you will see issues which were raised.
I mean, but this. I'll come to you, Manager Nkrumah shortly.
I'm here to support what.
Yeah, no problem.
So anytime you want, you can take it.
But just to hold you a bit to strict proof.
Yeah.
Your party had issued, in fact, the day they came into the scene and said they're going to campaign for a no, I think that was really the game changer. They said in that press conference that, I mean, if one of the things they proposed to the president was to withdraw and allow for broader consultations, and that they were opposed to a yes, which was campaigning for a no. Today, they've issued a statement, which is claiming victory. Says the NDC views the cancellation of the December as a refreshing victory from the party. Yet you in Parliament today were fighting the president for cancelling the referendum because you said it was illegal. And Haruna Idrisu said it was an injustice against the people of Ghana. That seems to be a contradiction between your position and that of your party.
Well, it's the story of the elephant, not so.
What's that story?
So people see it from the position, where they stand.
I mean, but this is your party.
Yes, but so yes, it's a party.
The party whipped everybody in line just last week.
No. The party in Parliament saw the withdrawal as a direct and violent assault on the right of the people of this country.
But the party
to determine the question.
The party doesn't see.
I don't speak for the party. I speak as the minority spokesperson on constitutional, legal, and parliamentary affairs. And we said that on matters of referendum, the right of the president to answer the question is the same as the right of a member of parliament to answer the question. So is it the same as the man at the trot station with a vote to answer the question? So the president cannot arrogate to himself the power to determine the question. Okay.
So you disagree with your party's position?
Well, but the party sees the withdrawal as victory for those who said that we should not allow partisan politics into local government.
I ask this question because there are many who say there's hypocrisy here. And that's why I'm asking this. That here NDC here's NDC, they play politics with all this. In fact, today, the majority leaders disclosed something I didn't know about. Like last week, the chair of your ranking on the local government committee said on the floor that you guys were tricking them.
I don't know that.
He mentioned, he quoted the electorate.
Was it on
the electorate on the floor said, you had tricked them all along to believe that you were for the thing. Meanwhile, you were really weren't. I mean, why are you playing with the people?
Well, I didn't hear you literally say that. Well, because you can't trick anybody. I mean, this governance is not about trickery. And I mean, if you can trick government, then we better reassess the kind of people we put in office. Because when people make suggestions to you on a matter of policy, you are entitled to go and reflect over the policy as government. Because you will not know the self-interest that has motivated the suggestion. And so if somebody makes a suggestion to you and you believe that you can rely on it and you finally think that you have been tricked, probably you need to reassess yourself.
I'll come back to the politics of this because really
in any case, government should not run the lives of people. The constitutional question of a referendum is a matter that affects everybody, including the ordinary man in the street. That's why we are left in no doubt that what has happened is subversive of the will of the people.
And I'm coming to let you explain that a bit more. But Madam Joseph Nkrumah, you always try to navigate this political landmine, like the field, very closely. Just the NDC is claiming victory. The MPP says something else today in the statement that, you know, they endorse. Isn't this why we're where we are?
Yes, indeed it is. It is because I think for everything that we've done in this country, it's about political parties. And it's finding expression again today. I mean, in one breath, you have at the beginning when we said we had consensus, we're going to do this, we're going for a yes vote. And then along the line, you had one party saying, no, we are going no, and then yes, this, well, if you don't give us this, we're not giving you that. And so it's become, it's a power play now. So if we say no, and impliedly it means that our followers or our party members will not go and support a yes vote. Then we, on the other hand, we're not giving 2, 4, 3, 1. Yeah. Which gives the
if you don't give me this, I won't give you this.
That's basically that's how. So I thought, at least for the election of MMDCEs, where Ghanaians have always clamored for that. So I was hoping,
the surveys show that.
Yes, and there are enough surveys that show that. So I was really hoping that on that basis alone, we would be given that opportunity in Parliament by parliamentarians themselves showing goodwill, that they are a listening people, that they are representative of the people and the people's interest, and not, so to speak, a party. And therefore to say, we're going ahead with this. And let us even say, let us try this process and see how it works. And then we may come back and revisit 55.3 and all the other amendments, all the other clauses that go with it that are not entrenched.
Oh, so you think that they could have amended the thing that takes the president's power away to a point, and then come back and rectify the other ones?
Well, to the extent that we have so many surveys that suggest that Ghanaians want to elect their MMDCs, I would have hoped or would have thought that Parliament would go with that same consensus that we're looking for and say, listen, this is what the people of Ghana want. We are representative of the people. Let's listen to the people and let us give in to this. Perhaps this is what is going to deepen participation in local governance. And having done that, we can then consider down the ladder, how is this working for us? Is it too problematic? What kind of, or what caliber of people are we having in local governance? Who are the people that stand for the superintending our district assemblies and saying, I think it's about time that we opened this up. Political parties are development agents. They must necessarily participate in this. let's go back to the people and ask them, do you want us to go this way? And then having practiced this for a period, after all, we are evolving. So this was another opportunity for us to make some significant changes if we so wished. On the other hand, if we didn't wish that, then we would say, if this is what we want to remain, we've all spoken about the political hypocrisy that comes with so-called non-partisanship at the district level. If we don't want that, what measures do we put in place to properly ensure that there is no political party intrusion or invasion of that space that we hold sacred as a people, and say, this is where we say it's just about everybody and it's not about party A or party B. We've lost a fine opportunity there. We have lost a fine opportunity. Whether we're going to have it again, I guess...
That's a big question. What is your level of hope that this will ever come back to the front burner?
Well, if, you know, we look at what has happened, transpired in the last few days, I don't have a lot of hope in that regard, I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry to say.
At least you've been honest.
Yes, I don't have a lot, but I think that civil society, Ghanaians must sustain this conversation. The election of MMDCs keeps coming to the fore. And if we're going to deepen democracy, then we need to look at that. And that the way we sustain the conversation is having, you know, programs like this, civil society, you know, also being a part of it and constantly engaging to the point where we understand that this is the way we must go. But
here's the thing. Civil society, etc., have been at this for more than for decades. I mean, trying to get to this point. I mean, friends of yours, Akwete and co, for more than a decade, this has been your life's work. You've joined that campaign. You've been, they got this close, days to go, and it's gone. And you actually say that the hope isn't there anymore.
But I think,
you still believe that people will still have the energy?
Well,
the commitment, the resources.
If people didn't have the energy, we wouldn't have independence today. If people didn't have that energy, we wouldn't have independence today. You know, in as much as I feel so gutted about the whole process, I still think that, okay, let's take a step back. Let's reassess this and let's come back together. I mean, if people gave up in the 40s, 1948 and all of that, where would we be today? Probably wallowing as, you know.
So civil society shouldn't give up?
No, I don't think any of us should give up. Because for NCC, for instance, we conducted a survey and we had almost 70% of Ghanaians saying they want this.
But here's the thing. That's what the people said. It's a question, really a question about what the politicians want.
And that is where we don't have to get to.
But they have
the power. No, you see, why do they have the power?
We gave it to them.
We gave it to them. We gave it to them to hold in trust for us. And they are to hold the power in order to do our sovereign will. It's not to hold the power to do a party's will. It is to do the collective people of Ghanaians' will. And that's why it's important for us to keep this conversation going and revisit our the Constitution Review Commission's reports, the white paper, and take a critical assessment of it and ask ourselves.
Let me ask a difficult question. You seriously think that going forward, NDC and MPP will find common ground on this subject, the way this has played out going forward, on this matter?
Should I take a jibe at them?
Please. Yes.
Maybe you should tie it into ex gratia. In Parliament.
They will see eye to eye. But Inusah, to that question.
NDC will not take ex gratia.
No, I'm saying that in Parliament.
In Parliament.
In Parliament.
It will do the committee of the whole, and then you will just say. But Inusah, when she touched on the sovereignty question, you bought into it.
Yes.
Because in fact you've been making that point today. But if the sovereign will of the people, as reflected in many NCC surveys, CDD, Afrobarometer surveys, it's just replete with it. In fact, recently the local government issue came up with a similar thing. 70% of people said yes. If that is the sovereign will of the people, why are the politicians getting in our way?
The problem And that's why I agree when she says we have to step back and look at what has brought about this new development, where we cannot push through amendments that reflect to some extent the will of the people. It's because of communication. And when I was listening to her, I think that you must be doing a good job at the SCCA. Because I felt convinced that probably if we had communicated the way we communicated under 2431, the way you communicated, maybe you would have carried or would have carried a lot of people along. That yes, we know that amendments are not complete. But let's see how we do this one and come back and see how to tackle those other ones. You see? And after all, what are we seeking to achieve?
Yeah.
No, go and take the debate. It was not about the people.
True.
It was about President giving out his power. Take the debates.
That's true.
Yeah. And someone even said that which president would like to sacrifice, give out power that has been conferred on him. It was not like the manifest will of the people has reflected in surveys, and we think that we have a responsibility to address that as parliament. No, it was not that. So when people started talking about the president giving out his power and how which president, every president wants power, and this president wants to give, oh, no, on this size. Then the partisanship came in. I said, but this is not new. I remember sitting on the floor of the House and going for the Constitutional Review Committee's report to demonstrate to them that this is not a new idea. You see? And then I'm the ranking, so I led the charge. I said, okay, so the president wants to give out his power. Why is he cherry picking? Is he being honest with the Ghanaians? And you understand? So that is the problem. This is the communication. That's where we are. We all agree in principle. Look, let me disclose a fact on your TV here. I got into the executive in 2010 because then I was chairman of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. And I stood up against a very reputable person in this country and argued that it was about time we started electing our DCEs because we have to make them accountable to the people. And when I finished, I had like an applause by the people in the room. The president, when we left for lunch, he told me, "Oh, I think Inusah, we have to find some job for you." You know, so it is not, in principle, we all agree. We all agree. It's not a partisan affair. In any case, I don't think that
it should not be a
partisan affair.
Because the reality is it has become a partisan affair.
You know, so I was scandalized when I heard the president said on the 55-3, there was a consensus.
Because he cites an April meeting with the
Who says that in amendment by referendum you need a consensus? Who has told you that? There's nothing like that. So again, you see the partisanship.
Okay, so today I put that question to the local government minister, and her reaction to this particular point was that when the constitution says that you must have, what was it, 40% turnout? Was it 40? And 75%?
Yeah, voting for.
And that the spirit of that was that you definitely would need a consensus.
No. The spirit of that is what the NCC is to go around and campaign and get people to understand the issues. You mean we can build consensus to do on illegality? We can build consensus to do what doesn't reflect the manifest will of the people? No. Who ever advised the president to say that misdirected him? You don't need consensus in a referendum. That is why the procedure for a referendum is clearly spelled out. I told you this evening, you go back and draw lessons from the Brexit. The Prime Minister supported a no. His cabinet, some supported a yes. It did not break the cabinet. they didn't need consensus to go along.
That's a different democratic dispensation.
No. Why
Very,
are we not?
very
Are we not a
advanced.
colony? Are we not a colony of Britain?
The nation to 1992.
Are we not a colony of Britain?
1992. We are comparing. Yeah, it's not a fair
Look, we are
comparison.
1992, but we are the only country, or about the only country in the world, who has added to the democratic experiment, but practicing a fusion.
Yeah.
So we are young, but we have added. And so, but no, I'm just saying that you don't need it. When I heard consensus, I said, oh, so political heads, former heads of states can decide that they can agree.
But they're leaders. They represent a constituency.
No, you can convince them to support a yes. Not build consensus, to support a yes. And then, because they support a yes, they become like reference points for their followers. That's what you do. But you don't say that because we agreed, it was a betrayal of an agreement. You know, we don't understand the argument.
Josephine, he makes this question about consensus has come up. That's the primary reason the president gave for the decision. That I'm taking this off so we can go and build consensus. But some say referendum is just like any other election, really. I mean, it just has a different name, but really it's an election.
Yeah.
I mean, so why must when we're going to vote on December 7th next year, you don't need consensus. Exactly. So why do we need consensus on this? And there's this whole thing about, in fact, you made a point too, that now let's go civil society, let's try and build consensus. But we don't need that, do we? We simply just have to go and vote yes or no.
I think the expression of the people becomes the consensus.
Yes.
And the expression I made the point to the minister today, who you can only be known
At the end of the referendum.
Yes. So it is when, and because the Constitution gives a very high percentage of people who should vote in favor of something or against it, that in itself becomes the consensus. But I think, I hope I'm not being presumptuous, but I think the president, when he spoke about or alluded to the consensus, is that if we get, as you said, if we get this kind of following, or if we get these leaders agreeing to this, agreeing to go to amend this provision or this article, naturally their followers would toe the line, would support them.
Yeah.
And so that in itself is where we would find the consensus.
Let me ask a question as a minister. Are we interpreting consensus to mean a consensus for a yes?
That's why for me, that's what I'm saying. Consensus is not.
Consensus is what? In this case,
majority.
It's a majority.
It's a majority.
Yes.
Yeah, but we are almost saying the majority must be for a yes for there to be a consensus.
No. So for me, either way, if we had Ghanaians going no, we had built consensus that we didn't want to go this way.
Yeah.
Likewise, if on the other hand, if Ghanaians had gone yes, they had agreed by consensus that this is the way. But the only way to test the consensus
is
would
to
be
go
at
to
the ballot.
referendum.
Yes.
So the point you're making is that the president should have allowed this to go.
No, I'm not saying.
I'm making that point.
He's making that point. I am doing my work in civic education, where the calendar suggests, and we have, we have the constitutional mandate to educate on all of these matters. We would carry out our mandate, but to the extent of whether we should have gone on or not, I really don't.
But clarify this: the NCC was campaigning for yes.
No, not at all.
That perception was out there that the NCC
NCC never
had
campaigned for a
expressed a
yes.
position for a yes.
No, on the contrary, NCC had maintained our neutrality. And in fact, when we consulted with the Ministry of Local Government and Information Services Department and the EC, it was right on from the beginning, something we made abundantly clear, that we were going to remain objective. Ours was to educate the citizenry, and therefore we could not take a yes or no. Ours was to explain what the referendum meant, what voting yes meant, what voting no meant, and allow Ghanaians to make an informed decision with their own conscience. But at no point in time did the Commission take a position on this matter. So we never had a position that we're yes or we're no. And in fact, what we did was to constantly caution our officers that no matter what your position is, as you go engaging the people, you must ensure you remain neutral, you remain objective, and you allow the people to hear what you have to say based on our mandate, so that the people go out and make their decision.
Yes.
And not for us to tell them which. And we had questions put to us directly. Madam, so should I vote yes or I should vote no? So no, it's not for me to tell you. I've told you what it's about. Look at look at the governance system in this country and ask yourself, do you want political parties to come here? What are the benefits if they come? What are the negatives if they come? You are better placed to make a decision on that and decide that, I want this amendment, or no, I don't think we're ready for this. No. So.
I mean, Inusah, so let me ask you that $1 million question. Do you honestly, sincerely believe that this will ever come to this point again?
I think it can come back, and I believe it can come back.
This is the
I believe
optimist
it must
in
come
you.
back. Yeah, no, I believe it must come back. You see, there is no doubt that we need to reform the local governance in this country. Look, MCs are simply not accountable. And
they are to the president, because the president can fire them.
Oh, no, accountability is to the people. The president himself is accountable to us.
I know the point you're making. My point is that we've inverted it.
Yeah.
So instead of being accountable to the people,
Yeah,
they're accountable to the president. They are
president.
afraid that the president will sack them.
No,
People there don't care about
that's
the people.
the problem. Yeah. And so we can't fix even little sanitation problems in the districts.
True.
Look, birth and death, we had said we will register everybody. So even at the beginning, we knew who are the Ghanaians and the periods of people. That it should not be possible to just walk up to the death registry to register yourself. That the unit committees must do that. It's not functioning. We have a local governance system in which you simply don't understand what they're doing. But it's a very important. In fact, I have read literature which says that decentralization and local government is far more important than constituting regions. Well, what are we doing? So that's why I believe inherently that we need to reform that sector. The way to reform that sector is to make them elective. So that when they collect revenue, now even district chief executive don't go around collecting revenue. They have no idea on how to collect revenue. Because when they collect your taxes, revenue at the local level, you can demand accountability. But they don't collect anything.
Yeah.
And so that is why it must come back. But it must be preceded by communication that addresses the issue.
You're expressing
why.
the ideal, the aspiration, but will it actually come back?
It's not when you express an ideal that you put in place measures to achieve. See?
Knowing what you know. The beauty of this is that next year you don't have the cobwebs of politics and campaigning.
Let me tell you, there are many good governance issues in this country that are not being addressed. I intend that when I leave Parliament, I'm going to dedicate myself to good governance issues. There are many, so many. That the impunity of the executive is just too alarming. And that is why we're not getting value for the governance system that we have put in place. It's just alarming. I've been a member of Parliament for 14 years, and I can tell you that when you sit down and do a reflection, an introspection of whether we are making progress as a people, you would feel sorry. And all of that is because of good governance. And it has been exacerbated by the extreme partisanship that we have in this country. So there's more work. There's more work to be done in this country.
Josephine, that is almost on your shoulders now, because you are the state institution that I guess must get us to the point where we appreciate our civic responsibility. The biggest challenge you have now with what has happened, but what we are forgetting is after you have this conversation, we are just, days to the 17th. Yes. The referendum is out, but you have a digital level election. Yes. Historically, we haven't even hit 40% before. Now that we've taken the thing that was probably going to get us there out, your job now becomes really Herculean. Now to get us to go there and vote for our district level election people.
Well, as I said earlier, there are two sides to this, because the referendum really opened a lot of people's eyes to the importance of district level governance. I mean, I had people calling me and say, oh, you know, we should begin to take this thing more seriously. Some would call and say, is it too late to, you know, go and file nomination forms that I want to stand as an assembly member? And you have a growing middle class that was very apathetic in the past, but because of the referendum, have suddenly woken up to the realization that, hang on a minute, we can't take district level elections for granted. And if we're going to see progress and development in our districts and, you know, catapulting through the nation, then we need to begin to take steps to address it there. We need to look at who we are voting for. Why are we voting for that person? Look at the caliber of people who stand as assembly members and unit committee members. Sometimes it's really worrying. Yeah. You look at them and you ask yourself, how is this person going to articulate the needs of your community at the assembly level? And perhaps that is why we have seen that the development that should be driven by district level governance is not happening, because the people who even hold themselves up for that position don't even understand what they are supposed to be doing there. I'll give you a typical example. NCC did social auditing, and it's basically getting a community, identifying their needs, prioritizing their needs, and building a self-help and self-management spirit in addressing, you know, finding a way to, you know, address the key concern. I went to a community where on one hand you had the assembly member and the traditional ruler saying, no, what we want is a community center, and that's what we're working towards. I said, no, but what we are here to do, it goes beyond the decision that the two of you take. Yeah. You need to listen to the people and understand what it is that they want. And by the time we finished, we realized that the people had nothing, they didn't want to know anything about a community center. What was paramount for them was to have a market, because it was a farming community. They needed a place to sell their produce. The woman who bought the produce of the farmers needed to have, you know, a sort of marketplace where they could do their pricing right and nobody takes advantage of them, you know. And it really opened my eyes to the fact that our assembly members even alive to the needs and sensitive to the real needs of the people, and in that regard able to communicate those needs at, you know, the district assembly. And that for me was one example that showed that no, they are not. No, they are not. Why? Perhaps they don't even know how to go about the process in identifying it, or they just can't be bothered. They go to the assembly, they're paid a certain allowance, and then they go off. Semblance of I'm doing something. But there are others too are working really hard. You need to see a new kind of person representing communities at the district assembly level, who can articulate issues, the concerns of the citizens there, who can address those concerns by convincing assemblies that this is what my people require and this is what would bring development. These are the real needs that you must be responsive to, and not be thinking about what you think looks fancy. No, that's not the role of district assembly. And if I may add, at this point in time, you find a lot of the time across the governments where you have the MCEs usually being people who stood for MP and didn't get it, and it's a kind of, you know, reward. So you're going there thinking, I've been rewarded, let me just toe the line and do this. Yeah. When you are there and you are supposed to be, you know, responsible for the well-being of the community or district. No, it's not like that. And that is why I feel really saddened that this fine opportunity for us to have amended 2431 and put that power in the hands of Ghanaians, determining who charts their development agenda, we've lost it.
Yeah. Inusah, so let's return to the constitutional legal issues that you raised today. The Attorney General was in Parliament today, has formally withdrawn the two, was it legislations or instruments that were before you?
Two bills.
Two bills that were before you, formally withdrawn them. Does that take immediate effect? What are the standing orders say? Now that she's done this, formally terminated? Or there's some gray area?
Well, we don't even We don't even know what she has done. We don't know actually what she has done. Because there's no procedure for that.
There isn't. Mm-hmm. But she was you entertain her. The speaker said that the things were drawn.
Yeah, the thing is wrong. Yeah. So Parliament has entered the answer that the thing has been withdrawn. But what has she done? I always ask myself a question. And at the faculty, they always ask on what authority? Mm-hmm. The two bills were laid pursuant to 293. They were dealt with by Parliament pursuant to 294. Then I asked myself, what article gave the minister the authority to withdraw? There's no such article in the Constitution.
Timmy Sambo says the president. He came on the president's authority.
The president has no authority to lay a bill in Parliament.
But it was done on his behalf.
Well, the president doesn't lay a bill in Parliament, so he doesn't withdraw a bill.
But he can instruct to be done on his behalf? At least that's the Chairman Sambo's argument. If the president is done on his behalf, he can instruct for it to be done on his behalf.
Bills are laid in the House by ministers. Now, so then I ask myself, when the Constitution says that when a bill meant for a referendum has been read the first time, no further action shall be taken thereon unless a referendum is conducted. What does it mean?
A bill says that the
Constitution says that. What does it mean? It means that the bill is out of the hands of everybody until a referendum so determines. Mm. So you wonder. You see, my problem is that this has introduced a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah. So let's settle it in the Supreme Court.
We can settle it.
This will enrich our democracy. This is unprecedented.
Actually, we are looking at the possibility, but we can. But what I'm saying is that, you see, AVDC, some call him Dicey, propounded his theory of the rule of law, and there were two cardinal principles: certainty and predictability.
This hasn't got any.
Nothing.
I see. Well. You still leaves me scratching my head. I'm not any wiser actually, but that's what democracy does for you. And we've had Josephine Nkrumah say the levels of hope isn't as great as before, but don't give up yet. Inusah is reaching to his aspirations and hoping that this will return again. But what do you make of this? 17th December, remember, is still on. Not anybody tell you that has been called off. This is your time to please address that.
Yes. 17th December, Ghanaians, we're still going out to the polls. We're going to elect our unit committee members and our assembly members. I urge every Ghanaian to come out and vote. Let us understand that district level elections is actually what catapults development in our districts. Let's not moan and groan about what goes on wrong, but let's come out and determine who goes to the assembly to articulate our needs in order to see us have some development. So come out and vote.
Well, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much. Yes, that was. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
That was already pre-scripted.